He's Black Guy Fawkes, and I'm just a boy standing in front of a musician, asking him to love him. And together we are Fawkes and Friends. Today, the third friend who we're talking to about creativity and social justice is Kayleigh Goldsworthy.
1, 2, 3, 4. From coast to coast, from sea to shining sea, what he got is fucking wrong. His land's not made for you and me. We're chanting the wall as we tear down bottom stalls. And watch our kids get slaughtered as they run straight through the hall. Let's go!
Ian, welcome back. How was your weekend?
My weekend was good. First, I want to say thank you to everyone who came out for the Dave Hall show because it was fucking incredible. I had way too much fun doing that. And mostly, I'm just excited to be here because we get to sit down with a person who I admire as an artist very much that I discovered back 2019 before the pandemic happened, Kayleigh Goldsworthy. I think she's a fucking incredible lyricist, incredible musician. And we had a lot of fun talking. Really excited to get it out there. Just so everybody's aware, in case you forgot, I'll be at Pusa Fest with Laura Jane Grace, Rebuilder, Stop the Presses, and many more artists. And then I'll also be at Camp Pennsylvania coming up with, again, Laura Jane Grace, Day Without Love, Kill Lincoln, We Are the Union, just so many other people. So get your tickets now. And if you get your ticket for Camp Pennsylvania, you get 10% off if you use the code Black Guy Fawkes.
Good to know. All right, let's get into it with Kayleigh.
Kayleigh Goldsworthy, it's good to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for doing this. As soon as me and Ed talked about this podcast, I knew I wanted to get you on because I want to talk to you about your craft and everything you do. But I do want to bring it back just a little bit. I also want to give you a flowers as well. But my first time seeing you was at the No Man's Land tour. With Frank, I saw you in DC at the Lincoln Theater.
Yeah, that was in
And-
2019, right?
Yeah, right before everything went crazy.
Yeah.
The Wilkes-Barre show was my last show before everything went crazy, so.
Oh, what a fun tour that was. Like, truly, to be able to play those venues, like such strange venues for like a indie artist to be playing. I felt really, really, really honored to be a part of that tour. Super special.
I didn't know who you were prior to that, but then I heard you rip into Joey by Concrete Blonde. Like, oh my God, this is just fucking fantastic.
Thank you.
Here's a small story about that. So once that show, it was when I was first like getting more into Black Fawkes, and I made these bracelets that said "That's Fucking Hot" on them, had my name on it. I went to your merch table. I talked to you a little bit, and then I bought 2 CDs. And I tried to sneak a bracelet onto your merch table. That way, you say, you know what? I'll take this guy out. But when I did that, you went, "Sir, you forgot something." I went, "Oh,
Did I really?
okay."
Wait, really? You were
Yeah,
trying to give me a bracelet and I thought that you just left it behind. I'm sorry. To be fair, this was pre-Taylor Swift bringing back the friendship bracelet. I'm sure I just thought legitimately you had left some jewelry behind. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. Now I feel like a jerk.
And this is why I help Ian network and promote.
And this is an ambush. This podcast is just an ambush that I just was so rude. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, Ian, this isn't an episode. This is just an intervention that Kayleigh and I scheduled for you.
Oh my God. Oh, that's so kind. That's so sweet. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it is totally fine. I forgot about it, and after a while, I cried about it at first. But
Did you forget about it? Did you really forget about it?
no,
I'm so sorry. Oh my
I'll
God.
be accountable. But I remember like a day after that show, I listened to Rover.
Mm.
So I live in Cumberland, Maryland, and it's a very Appalachian town. Like it's full of bluegrass, full of like acoustic music. That record is very reminiscent of that scene that I stay in because it is
Yeah.
so. Of course, it's all acoustic, but it just has that bluegrass feel to it, and there's songs like Spark that I still listen to this day, and it's so fucking good lyrically.
Thanks.
And then like, you're welcome. And the most, I guess, bluegrass one I love is just where the summer goes.
Yeah.
And I was on my way to go play with the Violent Femmes back in October. Yeah.
So that is so sick.
And I was riding up there with friends, and they kept playing fucking Taylor Swift in the car. And I just say, you know what? Let's skip this. I'll put on somebody who I think is better. That put on that record. So try to do my best to.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And Ian is a Swiftie, so that's high praise.
I mean, either you're with us or against us, as far as I'm concerned at this point in the world, you know?
I can't say I'm a full Swiftie. I'm coming around. I'm getting there. But
Every conversation that anyone has always has to involve Taylor Swift these days. But I stand by the fact that she is like arguably the best and worst thing to happen in the music industry, but I wouldn't really want it any other way. You know? I don't know. I think that there's like fantastic things that she's done for the music industry. And then I also think that there's like, she is a giant company. So there's that aspect of things as well. But yeah, I mean, hey, she can write a damn good song.
I mean, pop music is pop music for a reason.
Exactly.
and that being said, I want to talk about two things. One, who are your influences, and what's your process for songwriting? Like, how's everything start out first with you?
Sure. So, I mean, my influences are kind of all over the map. I grew up with musical parents and music in my household. So I grew up listening to prog rock, but I also was a music nerd. And so I started playing violin and guitar and piano at a really young age. And I just kind of sought out whatever kind of music incorporated the instruments that I was playing because I didn't want to feel like, you know, in my free time, I was learning about punk music and learning to play, you know, bar chords on guitar and playing Ramones songs and Alkaline Trio and kind of delving into that world. But then at the same time, I was playing violin and piano. So I listened to Tori Amos and violin. I was like, where is my outlet here? What can I do with this that isn't just playing in a symphony or playing classical music? There wasn't as many things, but there were a lot of varied things. I fell in love with bluegrass music because I was kind of looking for another outlet to play the violin with. Now, I will never call myself a fiddle player because I think that like I will get struck by lightning if I ever admit to that, like just immediately. It's not something that I feel like I'm capable of saying. I didn't learn from a fiddle player. All I can do is just enjoy and try and learn from fantastic bluegrass music and emulate it the best way that I can. I was in a band for 10 years prior to that solo record coming out. I was in a band with my sister called The Scarlet Ending. And we were like a 6-piece indie rock band. We had violin and cello. We had 3-part harmonies. We were a lot. We were so fucking cool, but we were a lot. We were before our time, I think. And so when I went on my own and I started working on the solo record, I think that that's why I kind of took that step towards a folky or more bluegrass sound, was because it was something that I hadn't been able to properly explore prior to being in a band for so long. And I really wanted to see what playing all of these instruments and kind of incorporating them into a different style of music, how that would come together. But also in the realm of bluegrass, like Loretta Lynn, Patsy Cline, not necessarily bluegrass music, but I like that old country is my jam. I also really love Homer and Jethro. They're this old country comedy duo. And actually for years, I even remember, man, when I lived in Nashville, I think in around 2016, so this was after the solo record had come out, and Frank Turner had come out to Nashville, and I took him to the Country Music Hall of Fame, and there was like a thing about Homer and Jethro. We'd been talking about covering this duet that they have called I've Got Tears in My Ears from Lying on My Back in My Bed While I Cry Over You. That's the title of the song. And it is utterly ridiculous. It's this comedy duo, but they write just fantastic folk music. And I don't know why we never figured that out when I was on the No Man's Land tour. But regardless, I just am inspired by every genre of music. I think that there's so much to learn that you can incorporate into everything that you do. So, yeah, my inspiration is very just kind of like thrown against the wall, everything and anything. So, as far as like how I go about writing songs, geez, I don't know. Sometimes I have like that lightning in a bottle moment where I write the music and the lyrics at the same time. I do have a tendency to do that just generally. Like I can't really move forward with just music or just lyrics. I kind of have to do it all at the same time. I care a lot about the percussiveness of lyrics and how the rhythm sounds with a melodic line. But I feel like, and this is shifting for me, like actively, because I felt like for a long time I was really guarded with my songwriting and like I would need to ensure that I had these fully formed songs before I could share them with anyone. And I decided at the end of 2023 that I was just going to write, record, and release a song on my own every month for my Patreon. And there's this crazy I feel like I've gone through, like, all of the stages of grief and imposter syndrome in 1 month already because it's like, I'm not used to having a song go from nothing to being released to the public in 30 days. I've never had that experience in my entire life, and then also the whole aspect of writing a song. Yeah, we can write songs. That's what we do. But like to be not attached to it or to be like, I wrote like 5 songs for the next month and I hated all of them. I was like, I'm being too dramatic. I'm being too deep. I'm not being deep enough. This is stupid. I'm stupid. I suck. This sucks. Why am I doing this? I call myself a musician. Oh wait, this is kind of cool. Like you kind of go through the whole thing. And so I also am starting to be very inspired by and affected by, the like kind of caring for and nurturing the reality that not every song you write goes on a record, but it doesn't mean that every song you write isn't like a stepping stone to get to those great ones. And also that like, I don't know, sometimes I think as musicians, we get too caught up in the bullshit and a song is a song and it doesn't have to be profound. It can be, and that's fantastic. But some of the best songs ever written, in my opinion, even though they're sad as hell, are so direct and simple. Like, I Can't Make You Love Me. Like, we're not digging for metaphor in that song at all. It's just as simply put as possible. And it's the most effective. So I think I'm trying really hard to stop limiting myself in how I choose to write right now.
The thing that's really interesting for me with all of that is, I mean, it is functionally a job, and people kind of forget that. And also what you just said about, like, a song doesn't have to be, like, on an album. It could also just come back, like, 10 years later, something might connect with you.
Totally.
Cole Porter, I'm an old musicals guy, would take songs out of his trunk for musicals, like, 15 years after he wrote them, and then all of a sudden, something that didn't work then works now, so
Totally. I love that too. And I love that that's kind of like the malleability of creating anything in the first place is that it doesn't necessarily all mean it's going to get lumped together right now. It could also be a time capsule. I could look at this song that I wrote 10 years from now, change a verse and be like, this fits with everything. I sometimes feel like songwriters have this innate ability to either predict the future or predict someone else's. So sometimes I'm like, I should write happier songs because all my sad songs, they come true. But I do think that it's really an interesting way to kind of look at creating.
Going back a little bit, because you mentioned like imposter syndrome, I feel like that crippling self-doubt always comes with every musician. Because for me, it's reverse. So when I write something, it's mostly, this sounds amazing. Then like later on, I'm like, this is fucking terrible. What am I doing with my life? I need to get a real job.
Yeah.
And it's
That's real. That's very real. And I think it's something that just comes from being vulnerable enough to like create in general. Like, yeah, it's hard to do. Hey, look, I made this thing. And also like our culture and the music industry has changed so much over the past decades that like there's just a whole new level of competition and not feeling like you're not good enough if you're not getting press, if you're not getting on Spotify playlists and all of those things. Like there's a really good chance they were never going to be yours to begin with. Like the game is fixed and it's not always letting the cream rise to the top. So I think that having to keep all of those expectations in mind and expectations in check and not letting that like devalue your own self-worth it's a near impossible task, but it's something that I feel like I have to kind of constantly remind myself daily.
now you guys are both artists who are on Spotify and other streaming services. Is it true that you can see, like, every playlist that somebody adds you to? I'm just curious because I've seen that. Oh, really? I'm gonna have to start
Yes.
naming things a lot better then.
I love a really terribly beautifully named playlist. Like I invite everyone to put me on the weirdest sounding playlist. I love it so much.
what's your favorite one that you can
I don't
remember?
I haven't looked in a minute. What's yours? Do you have one?
There's only one. My friend, I want to preface this a little bit. My friend Austin, he's a close friend of mine. We connected a lot in the last few years or so, via the Black Lives Matter movement and stuff, and their activist work. And he just made one of mine that just said niggas. That's so it's probably that the one I can't remember. I haven't checked in a while either, so I need to revisit. But
Yeah. No, usually mine end up on like either like angsty girl music, like Phoebe Bridgers adjacent emo Taylor Swift queer makeup party. That's kind of my vibe. That's where I hope to live.
outside of songwriting, I know you do a lot of session work as well.
Yeah,
Um,
I love to kind of get a peek behind the curtain of other bands and other projects, and I think it's also a huge way of influencing my music.
because I remember at one point after I saw you there, while I was checking out your music, I was getting bored to Dave Hawes, and I saw that a live video where you were with the mermaid. I'm like, holy shit, she's just fucking everywhere. So who
Yeah.
who who have been your favorite artists to work with?
I'll give you like my brief chronology. So actually when Burrower came out, I never toured on that record. I joined a band called Young and Sick. They were a major label band signed to Harvest Records and immediately kind of started working with them. And like we did some tours with Foster the People and Chance the Rapper. We did Coachella and all that stuff like back in 2013, 2014. And then I moved to Nashville and joined Dave's band, toured with Dave for a few years, joined Frank Iero's band, toured with Frank for a few years. And then I just started kind of getting one-offs. So I played with Bayside and I've done stuff with Kevin Devine and Laura Stevenson as of the most recent. I just think it's so fun and what an honor to get to play with musicians that you truly like love and respect. I remember when Burrower came out, it was 2013, and Laura Stevenson put out her record Wheel, and it was my all-time favorite record like that year. There was nothing could touch it. I thought that the production on it was amazing. I thought the instrumentation on it was amazing. There was strings, so I was like in my element. And then just last year, I got to tour on the 10-year anniversary of that record. So I got to play those songs every single night. And I can't tell you like what doing that tour, like how that made me feel. It just felt like this amazing full circle moment, truly. Because in my head, I already knew all the harmony parts. She was like, all right, here's I'll send you the vocals in a separate like Logic file so you can listen. I was like, no, I'm good. I've been doing this in my car for a decade. I'm good.
Was there ever a session like hiring thing? I'm not going to use the right terms because I'm not a musician. I just sing karaoke. Was there like when they hired you, were you surprised? Was there like a group or an act that you were surprised, like you want me for this? Because the genre or something was just not what you expected to be hired for.
I mean, getting a phone call from Frank Iero saying, hey, do you want to make a solo record with me? Come on over to my house this weekend. I'll introduce you to the rest of the band. And then you find out the rest of the band is like, Matt played in Murder by Death for a long time. Tucker is the drummer for Thursday, and Frank and Evan, who's been a good friend of mine for a long time. The fact that people of that caliber even know who I am and think I'm worthy to be playing their music is something that is like humbling. And playing with Kevin Devine, same exact thing. I've been listening to Kevin's music since I was in high school. The fact that he called me up and wanted me to play in his Irish band called Kenny O'Brien and the O'Douls, and all we did was learn cover songs. And I think that year, my Spotify Wrapped told me that Dave Matthews Band's Ants Marching was my #1 song because I learned all of the string solos and I was like trying to like learn every single part. I mean, just honestly, it's situations like that. I mean, not so much musically, like Frank's music was a little heavier than like anything that I kind of delved into personally. But I think it's more so just the opportunity and the trust that people you respect in the music industry. Like it's hard. That's like a one thing that kind of always gets me out of imposter syndrome and also drives me further deeper into it. You're like, if my friends believe in me, why can't I? And then you're like, but your friends are the people you listen to in high school. And you're like, this isn't real. Like,
Now with Frank Iero, well, were you MCR fan back in the day?
I was, yeah. I think I was maybe a little older, so it didn't hit me as hard as it did for folks a few years younger than me. But I respected the hell out of that band. I still do. I think they're incredible. And I do remember seeing them in high school after Three Cheers came out. Like, I do remember that. I didn't follow, like, too closely post Black Parade, but I remember Three Cheers came out when I was in high school, and I definitely saw them play the Furnace in Syracuse, which was basically just a concrete airplane hangar that was, and I mean, it was not that big. It was loud, and you felt it in your entire body for days afterwards. But yeah, like, I mean, that was when they were playing places like Syracuse.
For me personally, they were the band that got me into what I do, honestly. Like when I was
Yeah.
younger, I heard Three Cheers for the first time and it changed my fucking life. He was a guitarist for me that I wanted to be like him because he had such energy on stage. I'm like, I need to do that. Now I'm 30. I'm like, shit, I'm tired. I can't do that. Never mind.
And he's still doing it. And he's still just crushing guitar tones, collecting guitars. It's awesome.
And I guess on the flip side too, have there been any horror stories from session work where he said, I'm not going to work with this person again? Or
I'm not gonna go too far into naming names, but I also just genuinely think that being a touring musician and being a woman in music, there's like, there's a lot of things you need to be careful about. And there's a lot of things that seem better than they are in reality. A lot of times I get asked, if I have any advice for like younger me, and there would be times when I used to answer that question and be like, don't do things that scare you. And now I changed it and I was like, do the things that scare you, but know when to get out of those things, because I think that everything can kind of lead itself to something else. And I feel very proud of myself for kind of doing all of the things that I've done and also kind of keeping my head about myself. I think anytime you're kind of putting yourself in a situation where you are operating as an independent contractor, it's not like I had anybody else come out with me when I was taking these hired guns. I was just out on my own, looking out for myself. And there were a lot of times when I, didn't feel comfortable, didn't feel safe, didn't feel, I don't know, it just the vibe was off for whatever reason. But I don't necessarily like look back on those moments as like periods of regret or anything like that. I think that it's just more so like, oh, okay, now I know better that there's like not, there is no price tag on feeling safe at work. If you can't afford me, you can't afford me. I know someone else will get the job if I don't, but I don't think it's worth it anymore,
Now, not looking for like a horror story or a celebration, but just something I'm curious about with session work.
Sure.
So you play a ton of instruments and you're really good at them. If you have an idea, like maybe this would sound better if we did it this way, are people receptive to that? Or do you do it as, you were instructed, I guess?
Basically, I think the most important thing, first off, it depends, because there's some instances where, like in Frank's band, I joined the band, I wrote my parts, I played what I wrote on the record, and I played that on tour. There's other instances, like when I toured in Bayside for their acoustic record, where those songs were already recorded. So I kind of knew the difference between the two. Like, my job right now is to play these songs as they have been played on the record. And then also, I feel out rehearsals if people are changing the song, like, oh, cool. Well, hey, what did you think about this? Or like, because oftentimes when you're preparing to play songs live that you pre-recorded and never performed live, songs change. Also, a lot of times piano can become, it's actually three hands, you know what I mean? But that's recording magic. There's a lead part that's up there that you can't really play if you're doing everything else, or several synth parts, which is what happened when I played in Kevin Devine's band on his last record. You kind of have to pick and choose what parts make the most sense. And sometimes I feel like that responsibility can be mine, but I always like asking whoever's song it is, like, hey, what did you feel like when you hear this song, if this synth part was missing, would you be missing it? Like, what do you hear? It depends on the vibe, because also as a songwriter, I know that I've hired people to play in my bands where sometimes rehearsal goes great and it sounds just like the record, and sometimes it doesn't because it doesn't sound anything like the record. And I was like, hey, man, I like what you're doing, but maybe we don't do it for this show, because it's also your song and you don't want to take you. I like having that sort of cumulative effort of everyone kind of putting their thumbprint on it, but sometimes it's not yours to do.
do you like session work more than actual songwriting, or do you like both of them for separate reasons?
I like them both for separate reasons. The reality of being an independent musician in 2024 is that playing solo work more often than not is a loss, and you really have to do it because you love it and you want to do it, whereas getting hired for a tour is a job. I'm also kind of getting to an age where as much as I love to play music and I will continue to do it forever, I do have bills to pay and rent to pay, and I'm an adult and I can't use my savings account to buy t-shirts anymore and my merch, so it's like one of those things where I love playing in other people's bands because it's an opportunity for me to work in the music industry and actually pay my bills. And then that also fuels my ability to play my own music.
Can we talk about merch for a second? Because you have such a great lineup of it. I had
Oh,
to
thank you.
I had to purposely not wear the Barbie shirt today.
Thank
'Cause I knew we were gonna be
you.
recording.
It's so
Um,
good, right? I love
right?
it so much.
Like perfect capture of the zeitgeist at the time when that came out. What is your process of approaching merch like? Like how do you generate the ideas? How do you implement them? Like what kind of stuff do you do for that?
I've always viewed every record as like a different chapter. And also being the kind of person who grew up watching shows and watching artists like have a stage presence, I always view every tour or every record as its own chapter. And so like I love to have tour outfits because I also am one of those people who like I didn't understand in high school when punk bands would go up on stage in the clothes that they were watching the other bands play in. I was like, "But this is your job. You're not dressing for your job. You're just wearing normal clothes. Like, that's show business, baby." And but I I had this weird, thought that, like, if you're gonna dress for the job you want, and I wanted to be all eyes on me playing my show, so and also, I think there's something that I also do it because I think it's generally very funny as having such incredible opportunities as I've had to open large shows solo, no band. I feel like if I were to walk out on stage wearing what I usually wear, which is primarily all black with an acoustic guitar, I feel like half the audience would probably get up and go get a drink. So why not come out wearing yellow and rhinestones and pick a really strong song that hopefully makes people shut up and listen to you for at least that first 30 seconds. And then, I'm the opener. It's not your responsibility to like me, but I'm sure as shit gonna try my damnedest to get you to listen for 30 seconds. So I kind of view all of my merch under that umbrella where I'm like, okay, for No Man's Land, I wore a yellow jumpsuit that had, like, Vegas stars. My friend Hillary Rowdy Cowlick, like, embroidered the whole thing. It's so badass and so fucking cool. I basically had my own, like, nudie suit. It was so rad. And then I made, like, koozies that matched that outfit. All of my artwork matched everything. So I kind of, like, again, as an opener, I think it's super important to not be another person with another black t-shirt.
In case people listening are not fans of the podcast Cocaine and Rhinestones or are not fans of old country music, you might want to explain what a nudie suit is because
Oh,
some
right,
people are going to
yeah.
think something else entirely.
I mean, that is one way to get a fan base, let's just say that. No, it's basically just like, bright colored jumpsuits with rhinestones and just it's gaudy but classy in a way that, like, truly only old country could nail. And so I felt very cool in my little outfit. And then even still with, like, the LS Dunes runs, again, I'm a solo artist opening a very heavy rock band by myself. So I wore just like I looked like a disco ball in a pleather skirt, and I'm happy with that. But for Learning to Be Happy, which came out in 2022, the main colors was just like magenta, purple, blue, and so I just kinda ran with that because I was like, "Hey," especially as an opener, like I said, "I wanna make stuff that's cool." And my name is really long, so I don't necessarily always need my name on everything. Like, if you like my music, you'll buy my merch. If someone likes what you're wearing and they'll ask you, you know? What, do I think someone's gonna be taking photos or writing down names of like, just because they see it on a t-shirt? No, it's like, I'm not also, I hate my name is way too long. It's just too long to be on a garment. So I have a song called Little Ghost, and it just kind of took off, like, fans and people who listen to my music really liked it, and I started making little ghost drawings, and all of a sudden, ghosts were on everything, but also light purple because it was kinda cutesy and fun, and so I think, like, my merch just kind of becomes its own thing. I just kinda keep track of what's going well and just try to continue to make cute shit because that's what I would wanna buy.
I just want to say before I get into anything else, that Little Ghost is such a perfect fucking song.
Thank
It
you.
is truly my favorite off the album, next to Better.
Thank
So
you so much.
I know that you usually play solo, but I remember I saw you. Well, we saw you in Harrisburg last year, and you were a full band. I guess my question is there a full band name?
There isn't, but we've played around with a lot. What's really cool is that I kind of like to keep a rotating list of people who can play with me if they're available. And I've been really, really fortunate to have Tucker Rule drum for me a lot. I also had Mark O'Connell from Taking Back Sunday fill in on some shows, which was just the coolest thing ever. But then also my bass player and my guitar player are from my first band, like my high school first band. They both are still incredible players. And the second I started getting really cool opportunities to have a full band, they were my first phone calls. And I think that that's like, kind of keeps it back to what it was all about in the first place. But no, they love to make up their own backing name for that band. But no, at one point I wanted the backing band to be called the Hounds of Love, and then Kate Bush got popular again, and I was like, well, now that will seem a little too on the nose. But I always thought that was such a badass backing band name. Maybe one day. I mean, the kids really didn't do that deep a dive. I could probably still get away with it.
I know you said that your name is long, but at least people can spell your name correctly because
Can they? Can they though?
I mean, I can. In all fairness, your name is on the screen, so that is a
Yes,
cheat.
it's true. Yeah, no, I feel yeah, I mean, I'm not mad either, but I will never forget the first time I ever saw my name in a marquee. It was on Sunset at the Viper Room, and I drove up and I was so fucking excited, and it said Kayleigh Goldsworthy. These things happen. These things happen.
You wouldn't know anything about that Black Hawk Down, would you?
yeah.
Oh
So
no! Oh no!
all right, so here's the story. So I've been called Black Man Fox. I've been called at Lost Feelings. I'm not going to bring him to prison, but somebody wrote an article about it and it wrote me down as Bad Guy Fox.
Oh God!
And while I was first starting out, when I got my full band, Golden Theaters, we played this benefit show in Cumberland, and somebody said, "We're look for the E. Robson's band," and somebody asked, "What's the name of the band?" And they just went Black Hawk Down. I'm like, at that point, you're not even trying.
And
Like-
the horrifying one for me was I was
sorry.
I was at a karaoke bar talking to people who said that they like punk and they like folk punk, and I'm like, let me turn you on to this guy, Black Guy Fawkes. It was a loud bar. You can imagine what they typed into Spotify, and all sorts of things came up that shouldn't.
I mean, what can you do? What can you do?
my buddy, we have a joke now where my new stage name is Black Guy Guitar also.
Are
No,
we
that's
all
right.
not just Starbucks cups, just getting it wrong left and right? That's a Starbucks cup in the universe,
And I do want to ask, I know that Learn to Be Happy that came out just in 2022.
Yep.
Besides releasing singles on Patreon, do you have plans for a new record at all? Or
Solo stuff? No, I don't. I feel like every so often I have a little bit of a war within myself where I need to kind of recalibrate and not necessarily like talk myself back into continuing in the music industry, but maybe like find that fire again to continue to put up with the bullshit. And I try really hard because I don't ever want to become that like naive or not naive, jaded, the other end of the spectrum. I never want to become this like jaded old person who is arguing with the algorithm like it can hear you and give a shit. But I do think that like, the industry is changing so much. The only way to make money is touring, but touring is not a lucrative business. Even in merch land now, we have venues taking merch cuts, and that's commonplace. I really thought it was a cool move for Live Nation to start paying artists stipends and to stop taking those merch cuts. To my knowledge, that ended at the end of December, and it was kind of like a showman thing. I'm hoping that that's not the case. I really haven't looked further into it to see if that's still happening, but I don't believe that it is. I don't know if you guys are familiar or know if that's still not happening or whatnot, but
what merch cut thing? I have a question because personally, I've never experienced merch cuts from venues at all. Is this mostly like larger venues, or is this happening like all across?
I don't notice it too much happening on lower capacity venues. It's usually more on the bigger tours. It happened on the Frank Turner tour. It happened on all the LS Dunes tours. The best part about it is that it requires a venue person to watch you check all of your merch in when you first come in. And if you are the opener, you just show up late and then you just leave a little early. And then when someone comes up to you and they're like, "Hey, what's the merch cut?" And you just go, "What?" And then they go, "The merch cut." And you're like, "I'm sorry, hold on a second. I have these boxes. Let me just take this to the van. I'll be right back." And that's
Yeah.
that. If they, because my thing too is that I don't want to get in a fight with somebody who like, they're also just the messenger, and I get that. But if you're not going to do your due diligence to be a, I don't know, big brother over me while I'm bringing my merch in, then you don't deserve to find out how much I sold. I've also just told people I sold 1 CD and 1 T-shirt, and then they looked at me like I was lying because I was, and then I was like, "Here's $1."
Yeah. Just be like, yeah, sorry, I just wasn't very good tonight. And
Yeah, do you
lie to
feel
me.
good about
And-
yourself? Take
and then
my
you-
dollar. I don't mean to be mean. It's just such a strange loophole that the business has kind of taken over artists because by that logic, we should be getting 5 to 10% of the bar.
That argument should be made.
I mean, the whole reason that venues have business is because artists come to play in them. You know, they make money off of ticket sales, they make money off of bar sales. If that's the bargain and now they need money off of the artist, that just isn't getting paid by the venue. They're getting paid by the ticket sales. It all feels like a weird bad dream. And so basically that's why I have no record release plans upcoming. I just needed a minute, I think. And with Spotify now, like you need to have 1,000 plays on every single song you've ever made within a year in order to start to see the very minuscule royalties that they are actually awarding us. Meanwhile, we spend tens of thousands of our own dollars if we're not on labels to make a record to basically give it away to Spotify for free. And that just doesn't sit well with me at all. And so I thought, okay, this year I'm just going to get better at self-recording. I'm going to get better at production. And then you want to know what? I'm going to sell my music for $2. A song for $2. And you want to know what? If you want it, you'll buy it. And if you don't, that's okay too. I only want to make music for people who value the cost of what it is to make. It's not free to make. It costs so much money. And as musicians, I think that we literally look at the receipts. We don't even take into consideration our time as currency. And so if we even started thinking about how much time we're devoting to songwriting, crafting a song before we even, and the time spent recording it, let alone the cost of all of the DAWs that you use to make it and all of the time that takes, like we're spending thousands of dollars and people have no idea. You know, they want to know why we're not playing their city. They want to know why we don't have a new record coming out. They want to understand why. Like, so I just decided, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a little mini hiatus from focusing on appeasing all of these hands being up in the air. And I'm just going to make music, get better at doing it on my own, and then sell it to the people that want to hear it. And I don't think that, you know, you could buy a yearly membership to a Patreon for $20. And to me, that felt fair enough while also keeping the bar pretty low because that's lower than any ticket price you could have for any show this year.
Fucking preach it.
Again, I don't want to be salty and I don't want to be jaded and I don't want to be nasty, but it's just the industry has changed and the only way that we're going to see a shift is if people understand the realities of if there's no monetary value to music because you pay a company $10 to give it to you for free, how are we supposed to explain to people when there's no full-time musicians anymore that aren't either trust fund kids or like major label artists that 3 of those get deals like that, you know?
Right. I don't necessarily think it's you being mean or anything like that. That's you're speaking the honest truth about that. I guess on a more social note, I feel like when people like you and me speak about these things going on in the industry, it's viewed as us complaining or us looking ungrateful. Then we may get labeled, which is a kiss of death for women and for Black men being hard to work with.
Sure.
So-
And that's the other thing that I try to keep in mind is that, like, you know, I'm I'm not trying to make myself a martyr in this situation. That's why, like, I don't complain on Spotify. I try really hard not to complain about anything in general. I feel so incredibly fortunate and so incredibly lucky to have the friends and the community in the music industry that I have. I've traveled the world and I had music pay for that. That is something that, like, in the grand scheme of defining your success in the music industry, I can't say that I haven't already succeeded. I don't expect anything out of music. I'm just tired of people taking it from me. And I think that that's kind of where the line is. Like, yes, I also think that I've had some difficult conversations where if I was a white guy, I don't think that the people I was talking to would have treated me the same way. I'm also not going to like dignify that any further than that because to me it's just like, hey, the reality of the situation is this sucks. You know it sucks. We all know it sucks. How can I better myself so that I'm not continuously like pissed off about this poison that is going to continue to be in my system whether or not I give a shit? You know, I just want to make music. I just want to play music for people who want to hear me play music. If fans don't have $2 to buy a song, that's totally fine. I understand that. But if you do have a disposable income to pay $2 for a musician who is making a song solely to give to you, that you have no idea how many people donating $2 a month to buy a song, the impact that that has on musicians. Because none of us can tour without another job right. Like, it's impossible.
And a song for $2 is a much better investment than Ian going to Starbucks and having them hand him a cup that says Megan Omninson.
Oh,
You guys don't even have Starbucks down there. I don't know why I picked that reference.
No, we have a Starbucks.
Do you?
just
Yeah.
one, right?
Yeah, we usually have one Starbucks, and nobody has actually no. Somebody spelled my name ENN once. I'm like, that's and
My name
Wow.
cannot be misspelled. I'm pretty sure that my name cannot be misspelled. My first name, at least. You'd have to try
Sure.
really hard to fuck that up. It's 2 letters. It's a
ID.
belt buckle name.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's so funny.
and I think it's time for our game.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Guys, motherfucker. So we're just gonna ask you some random questions and just like rapid fire ish, and we'll get your answers to
Okay.
it. So you being living in Philly, I need your Mount Rushmore of Philly cheesesteaks, the best places to get them.
Jim's is the best place to get a cheesesteak. It burned down. They're rebuilding. I am anticipating like a phoenix rising from those ashes to bring the best cheesesteak back to Philadelphia. I don't fuck with Geno's and Pat's. It's just,
Tourist trap bullshit.
yep.
Her Mount Rushmore is just one. It's just
It's just one.
It's
No,
just
that's
Lincoln
it.
up there.
That's
just
it.
Lincoln.
I'm sorry.
It's all
I
good.
didn't,
No, it's good.
because outside of that, it's like, I mean, there are other ones, but like if if my friends come to Philly, I want you to eat a Jim's cheesesteak. That's the one. D'Alessandro's, which is Dave Hawes's favorite, is out in Roxborough, I believe. And it's good, but like you have a style at every individual place. And like he gets his with like marinara on it. And to me, it's not the same thing. I want Whiz-Wit, like I want cheese and onions, and I want it. I'm getting a little hot over here.
I don't imagine they have good ones out there.
I haven't tried. I'm not even going there. Kind of one of those things where like, you know, I was talking to someone about LA pizza and they were like, it's just not good. And I was like, okay, but here's the thing. That's being like going over to fucking Italy and being like, the French fries here suck. And you're like, well, I mean, you're in Los Angeles. What are you expecting? New York pizza? What are you expecting? New York bagels? I know they suck. I'm with you. Let's just find the best of the worst, you know? And that
Yeah.
exists. That's fine. There's passable foods. I just can't. I can't. I don't know.
What is LA pizza? I've been curious on this for a while. Somebody just mentioned this the other day, I think.
Yeah, we talked about this on a previous episode. Yeah.
I mean, it's just not. It's just pizza. It's just like, you know, like when you are driving a long time, either you're on tour or you're on a road trip or something, and then you get to a hotel and you're like, man, the kitchen's closed except for these 3 things, and one of it's like a margarita pizza. And then you're like, I guess this is dinner. And then you eat it and you're like, you know what? It didn't kill me, but I'm never gonna remember this. That's LA pizza.
All right, so this is not a Mount Rushmore. This is a this or that. But as somebody who spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania, I just need to know, Sheetz or Wawa?
Wawa.
Yeah.
Wawa. And also, if you're ever in Philly, Uncle Oogie's Pizza is the best pizza. Mwah. Just the best.
I would ask you a question, but I'm so hurt by this Wawa choice.
Oh no.
it-
Okay.
It's okay to be wrong, Ian. It's okay to be wrong.
I love Sheetz. I really do. And going from Syracuse to New York a lot, I would always end up at a Sheetz in like Wilkes-Barre on my way down to New York. And I love Sheetz, but man, I lived across the street from a Wawa. I got real used to it. It takes some commitment, but you learn what they do really well, and then you just got to stick with it.
I'll allow it.
Sheetz is better drunk food, but Wawa is better food.
Sheetz is better bathrooms. Wawa
That
is
is
better
true.
food.
Yeah.
Well, I do agree that Sheetz is better drunk food because those Wisconsin cheese bites. But I got a bucket of those ones, and it came all congealed at the bottom of it.
Oh,
Like, it
no.
was
See,
so-
I feel like you can be remotely responsible with your eating habits in a Wawa. In
Yeah.
Sheetz, it's just like, nope.
Everything's just deep fried.
Yeah.
Guilty pleasures in music. Anything?
Gosh, I don't even know what I could call a guilty pleasure because I truly love everything. And I also, I don't know. Like, I love Taylor Swift. Yeah. I love Olivia Rodrigo. I love the influences. I didn't love this new record, but I also started listening to it more, and then I was like, yeah, I guess I do love it. I have a weird thing where I just think it's funny when kids swear. And I don't mean that in like in a she's a kid way. It just felt like very like, I'm gonna say fuck because I can kind of vibe. And so it took me a little while to get into it, and now I love it. I think I kind of warm up to everything I even think I hate. Honestly. I love to be proven wrong by music, I think. But yeah, I have no guilt. I don't have any guilty pleasures. I will listen to anything and I will enjoy it.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Something Happened on the Way to Heaven, Phil Collins. Sometimes I sing Walking on Sunshine. I love Katy Perry's Teenage Dream. Also, Carly Rae Jepsen's Call Me Maybe is always a crowd favorite. The thing with a good karaoke song, because I don't love karaoke because I just feel this weird pressure that I have to do well. And like, no one should go into karaoke thinking that that's like a goal. But I feel like because people know I sing, whenever I get up on stage, I just feel like there's a magnifying glass on me. And even though I'm sure that that's not true because everyone's drunk and having a good time. So I just want to sing a song that everyone's going to sing louder over me.
So big in the karaoke. And I figured, question,
Stop it.
I got those
It's
at Lost
across
Evenings.
your knuckles.
I got it
Oh
at
my
Lost
God.
Evenings. Yeah.
Shut up. That's so funny. Okay, for my birthday every year, I used to go get dim sum with my friends and then go right across the street and do karaoke. Like, it wasn't for me. It was just more so like I have a February birthday. It was a great way to get people together in the cold and then just walk across the street and just sing your heart out for the rest of the night. And I'll just watch my friends sing. I love that. That's the best. But I'll whip out a Phil Collins jam if I need to.
Ed took me over to what's the name of the bar that we went to for New Year's?
The Raindrop in 2.
And first off,
where's this?
Okay, Kayleigh, were you an X-Files fan growing up?
Yes.
Do you remember that horrible episode, Home, with the inbred family and the mother under the bed?
Oh my God.
It's the town
I
that was
didn't
set
until
in.
now. Oh my God. Wow. Wow.
But this man does a mean Oasis.
I did Don't Look Back in Anger
Yeah.
because I truly love that song. And I need to do something to calm my nerves because Ed, tell me about the cornhole boards.
So
And
I
how
also
I-
need to know. I need to know Ed's karaoke song.
that's fun. It doesn't matter what my song is. Do you ever like do a thing where you have to like amp up your involvement in something to get that like adrenaline feeling from it?
Yes.
I've started singing songs I've never heard before. That's my go-to now.
You live on the edge,
I
my
do.
friend.
My default go-to though, if I'm traveling and I want to impress, it's either going to be Johnny Cash or Shaggy.
Two very different extremes. I respect the
Yeah.
hell out of you, sir.
I asked you to talk about the cornhole board
Yes.
because that almost made me leave.
Yeah. So we pull up, and I have never been to this bar before, by the way, but I knew the guy who was hosting it. And I was like, Ian, it's going to be in the middle of nowhere. I promise you're going to be safe because you're there with me and I will know people. And we walk in and they're playing cornhole in this bar. And one set of cornhole boards is a thin blue line and the other's a thin red line. And it's like, oh no, we're getting hate crime tonight. But we didn't.
Jeez.
We lived. And we had remarkably tiny bar tabs.
The fuck?
It was terrifying. A black man in the middle of nowhere in fucking Pennsylvania. I didn't know what was going to happen.
The best part is when we walked in and the woman doing IDs is like, oh, we had another one of you in here to Ian.
Shut up.
Somebody from Maryland.
Oh
And
my God.
She followed up with somebody from Maryland.
God.
I'm like, oh, thank fucking God.
Oh my God. I was waiting for it to go full Pennsylvania.
At this point, the stuff white people say to me in bars, I'm used to everything. I've been. I'm not going to get into that, but
I am sorry.
no, it's still. I can joke around about it. Like most I get called now. I get called the wrong word. You call hootie, which is the worst. But that man is a being in my existence. He's my Wario, and it's true.
I love that. I love that.
I guess my last question for this is, who do you want to work with the most session wise? Like, who is your dream artist to go on tour with as a backing member?
Jimmy Eat World would be like my number one band. I love that band so much. I love that band. And then honestly, I want to play with like Olivia Rodrigo or Carly Rae Jepsen. Like, I think that honestly, once you get to a certain point where you realize that music is so much bigger than what you think you have to say, music is all about just having fun. And man, all I want to do is just have fun and dance around and play rad music. But I think like from a more serious perspective, like Jimmy Eat World would be like, I would love to sing Liz Phair's harmony parts every night. That would be real cool.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Now, Kayleigh, we are currently in the end of March. What do you have coming up over the next little bit of time?
Well, as per usual, I will be doing a new song on my Patreon at the top of April. I'm also hitting the road with my good friend Anthony Green while he plays California and Phoenix. So he's got a full U.S. tour happening right now. Queen of Jeans is opening those shows. They're so rad. I don't know if y'all are familiar, but definitely check them out. And then, yeah, I will be joining Anthony solo. He's solo. It's going to be so special and so fun. So if you're in Phoenix, I think it's like San Diego, Anaheim, LA, Sacramento, San Francisco. Just a beautiful little Southwest California tour.
Sweet. Kayleigh, it has been a pleasure today. You're now one of my favorite people of all time.
Aw, thank you
Yeah,
so
yes,
much for
that's-
having me. This was so much fun getting to chat with you both. I really, really appreciate it. And it was so rad getting to meet you and see you play at Lost Evenings too. Like, seriously, what a cool opportunity. We talked about this briefly before I think we started recording, but Frank has such a great way of bringing together artists because he organizes these festivals all over the world. And I just think that I've made so many friends through Frank, and I'm really, really fortunate that you are now one of them.
That means a lot to me, just so you know. Because music has always been a place for me. This is just me speaking personally. But music has always been a place for me where I've struggled trying to meet people or just be myself around the musician, because I was always just cast it aside. But being at Lost Evenings with like all of you guys, I really just felt welcome. I just felt like I found a good tribe of people. So thank
It's
you.
amazing.
And
And
the-
also, it's one of those things where like you never know where these kinds of friendships go. And as we all continue to do what we do, like I met Frank when my first band opened for him in 2010, maybe. And we've just stayed friends and stayed close. And then the tour offer came, 9 years later, and here we are.
Yeah,
You
that was-
never know.
Yeah, that was my first time meeting Frank at that show, because I've been a fan for 11 years prior to that. Then meeting him, I just saw him walking out the hall, and I'm like, oh my God, it's happening. I'm about to say hi to him. Holy shit. And it was, and again, like that's how I discovered you, Chuck,
Yeah.
back to like everybody. I discovered through him. So being able to actually like speak to you for longer than us being at Lost Evenings, this was a lot of fun. And
Hey, yeah, I loved it. Thanks so much.
This show is the brainchild of Black Guy Fawkes, folk punk trio. You can find him on all the social medias as Black Guy Fawkes or Black Guy Fawkes Music, as well as on his website, blackguyfawkes.com. The intro and outro are both from the song New American Meltdown by Black Guy Fawkes, so that's legally covered because this is his podcast, and that is his song, available on the album Life, Love, and the Bomb. Additional music elements provided by Fab Shop Music, a royalty-free music subscription service for podcast hosts and YouTube creators. More info at fabshopmusic.com. Sound design and editing by Ed Cunard, who appears courtesy of his dog and many, many cats. Cover art by Jacob Matthews, a pal who has been down since day one. Fawkes and Friends is hosted on Spotify for podcasters. Listen on Spotify for the best experience. Finally, while Fawkes and Friends firmly believes that punk rock is and should be a safe space, we know it can't be safe for everyone without excluding bad elements. So remember.
So tell your local Nazis that they're fascists to fuck off.
Yeah, so I will insert an audio tag afterwards where it's part of one of Ian's songs and him saying, "Surprise, motherfucker." Did I do a good Ian impression? Did I do that right?
you did it pretty well.
Amazing.
Am I getting canceled for that?
Yeah, it's racist. So
Yeah, if I figured. I'll send you $5.